We are, of course, as I mentioned, is now pleased to have our representatives from Hilti Malaysia, our distinguished speakers and PAM members, and of course, all of you audience members, our guests here for today. To officially begin today's program after the singing of the anthem, it is my pleasure to invite the General Manager of Hilti Malaysia, Mr. Kranti Mudula, to deliver his opening address. May I please have you on stage, sir?
Well, good morning, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here. Good morning, Architect Chong Lee Siong. It was a pleasure to meet you today morning, and welcome to all the PAM members. So, my name is Kranti. I know architects like precision, so 52.17% of my entire life, I've been an employee of Hilti. Hilti is a company that has been established for 85 years. So 28.24% of Hilti's tenure as a company, I've been an employee. So I can see some architects already calculating my age. Yeah, so I have the pleasure of presenting to you Hilti as a company. I always jokingly tell my colleagues, my blood is Hilti red. So for the people who have not yet calculated, I am 24 years with the company now. So I'm 46 years old. Huh? I will take you through in the next 5 to 7 minutes about what Hilti is. So Hilti was founded in 1941. There is no full form for Hilti. It's a family name. It's a family-owned company based out of Liechtenstein, and with a revenue roughly around 6.4 billion. What we in Hilti, we always proudly share is the amount that we invest in research and development every year. Roughly around 7.21% of our revenue, of our sales, is used to invest back into research and development. We have a direct sales model, which means that we contact engineers, contact contractors, contact consultants every day, worldwide, 35,000 employees. So roughly, if we take the direct sales force, we have 250,000 plus or minus 5% everyday touch points with the construction industry. That's what, or who we are briefly. Hilti Malaysia is actually part of a region. Hilti has 7 regions. Our region is South Asia Pacific, which has around 2,500 employees, 2,200 plus, and our headquarters is in Singapore. So from India to New Zealand and everything in between is part of this region. And we have in Hilti Malaysia, Hilti Group is actually quite prominent in Malaysia. We have more than 1,000 people based here, around 240 people who are what we call the sales and marketing organization, more than 25 to 30 engineering team based out of Malaysia, where when we speak about engineering, we speak about specification engineers, codes and approvals, business developers, field engineers. Then we have a global IT team and a shared service team, more than 500 people. And we also have our manufacturing plant, Ogland Industries, over here, more than 200. So roughly, we speak about close to 1,000 people of Hilti based out of Malaysia. We are proud to share that Hilti Malaysia has been certified as a great place to work. We ranked number 6 in the medium category of companies as company that is best place to work in Malaysia. So our purpose as Hilti is making construction better. So this is a very aspirational purpose we have. When we speak about being in front of the customers every day, being in front of the consultants, contractors, architects every day, listening to them, providing solutions, our promise to our customers, our promise to our stakeholders, let me call it that way, be it engineers, consultants, architects, or contractors, our promise is to be their best partner for productivity, safety, and sustainability. We thrive every day to help the construction industry with all our expertise for better projects, better processes, better applications, and better experiences. So Hilti is actually not just RE500 company. It's not just chemical anchors, it is not just firestop, it is having hardware, software, and services. We call it like a one-stop shop. Hardware, we speak about from precision tools, measuring tools we call it, to hacking, drilling, all the way up to fastening, support systems, and fire-stopping material. So we have the full range. If I'm not wrong, we are one of the only, if not the only contract or supplier or partner who has this full wide range of portfolio. So that is just product. When we speak about software, we have different softwares to help or work with the construction industry. We speak about asset management, from tools on the job site to cranes to even small things like air conditions and laptops. We have a asset management software which is quite successful in Malaysia. We have FieldWire, which is helping in collaborating on the job site. And then we have specifically for engineers, architects, what we call process engineering software, which is a code compliant anchor design system. And when we speak about services, we don't just stop at hardware, having world-class, top-class hardware. When we are investing 7.21% of our money in revenue in R&D, we don't just speak about software, but also we speak about holistically serving the customers. From repair services to consulting services, meeting the customers in the office, meeting the customers in the job site, meeting the customers in seminars like this. We speak about project-specific services, and here we speak about from doing engineering judgments to helping them with calculations, and trainings, seminars, engineering design and modeling, BIM, and fabrication services. So we have a whole lot of services, and the way we work with the engineering team in Hilti towards the market, we have a name for the program. The name of the program is Spec to Site. That's the way we work. But I would like to invite my head of engineering to take you through the program of Spec to Site. So Umesh, welcome. Thank you very much.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Umesh. I'm the head of engineering for Hilti Malaysia. As Kranti said, my half or more than half of professional life is with Hilti. So 18 years I'm with Hilti now, working with India and Malaysia. In Malaysia, I've been like 4 years plus, working in different roles here. So that's my brief. And today I'll speak about Spec to Site, which is a program from Hilti. I'll explain you in a brief how do we support on all the services, on selection of products, how do we specify, and how do we also ensure that the specifications get in reality at the job site, right? So generally, as an architect, when you do a drawings or specifications, we tend to observe that many times your specification, drawings, or recommendations exactly do not get replicated at the job site. There is some mismatch here and there. So to resolve this problem of miscommunication, mismatch, that you face daily challenges at the job site, we already, as a team from Hilti, support all the architects and also the contractors to culminate and complete the whole cycle of application at the job site. As rightly said by Kranti, we have sales team and we have engineering team who work together, and also a backend team to support our architects, engineers, and contractors to complete the cycle basically. So what we see here on the right side is selection of your systems or products as per the design codes, as per the design method that we have, as per the requirement of the project. Maybe it's a data center project, maybe it's an industry, maybe it's a residential project. We tailor to your application and project what solution require based on the application and also as well as the design code. Example, MS1183 talks about how to select firestop system, how to use it. So we help all the architects to select the engineered product system which are approved through UL, FM, and other international bodies, and have a perfect application there. The second step is to release these drawings from your site to the job site. And ultimately, at the job site, we have sales team who help us to collaborate and apply this material or the solution exactly to your requirement. I'll go in little bit detail. So whenever you have these kind of system solution which are design method and UL based, you have a peace of mind basically, because you will be using a high performing material or high performing system solution which will guarantee you or ensure a safety. Say for example, you have a specification requirement for 2-hour fire rating or 4-hour fire rating with a very complex situation of penetrance in a fire stop opening. We help you to tailor your situation basically with a very high performing material. 4 hours is one of the extreme case of fire rating that you have in the market. So we can provide you solution for 4 hours which is high performing. Value engineered is more being precise on how we can optimize your solution. Say for example, your opening is 1 meter by 1 meter, a very big size where the consumption can be very high. We can help you to optimize and value engineer the system there for your mixed penetration, or in detail we'll go later basically. And also all these solutions that we bring, you have a very tight specification for in your drawings, right? Or in your tender, which will bring peace of mind for you. And these solutions are sustainable also for a long term. I'll go in detail also. And from the contractor side, the tools and equipment that we supply and the trainings we supply brings more safety and the solutions are very simpler and faster. So overall, all the solution that we bring in from the specification up to execution is sustainable that we get. I'll go in detail on the spec 2 side where you can see the large spec, right? So for example, when you see on the left side, we have multiple product lines or systems which can help you to select a very complex situation at the job site. All your job sites can be very simple or medium complex or very complex. So our systems which are UL based, FM approved or EN standard based can help you to mitigate all this complexity at the project site. With the help of BIM or with the help of AutoCAD drawings, we can help you in creating BOQ and also create a good standard specifications which can help you and also the contractor at the job site to get more clarity on how to do the application, what product lines or what system solutions we are applying there. And also there may be situations where the application is out of the scope of your codes and standards. We can also arrive with engineering judgment which is based on the testings that we do and also based on the experience that we have, extensive experience R&D that we spend, right? We can also produce documentation of engineering judgment where you can create your specification on a strong basis, right? And this gets applicated through BIM, AutoCAD drawings, or any other medium that you would like to specify the job site. This brings you a lot of peace of mind in your cases where you are ensured that whatever fire rating or whatever safety measures you would like to achieve through the application is applicable through the specification. At the job site, when you send these drawings to the job site or the specification to the job site, we have all kinds of equipments. We have all kinds of support. For example, we have trained applicators who are certified, trained, accredited through Hilti for doing the application. So they can do the precise application in a very aesthetic way so that the application is guaranteed for you and also the inspection services that we also provide to you. So all the solution, the application that we do is very fast. You don't have to worry much about where are the deviations, and if any deviations are there at the job site, our sales team help us to understand more. We come back to you and help to garner a solution around the challenge that the job site has, and make again the solution for a better and productive solution for all your contractors and also for you. So spec 2 site covers right from the design stage of your or the concept stage of a product of a project, where we can specify as per the code methods. We can provide you all the general notes, all the specification text, and also the typical drawings. We have a online fire stop selector. If you go on Hilti website, you can also find a fire stop selector where you can drop down your condition, your country. For example, you are doing a project in Singapore, but you are sitting in Malaysia or maybe in Thailand. You can just select your country. It will obviously come out with the local design methods. And also based on the application, you can select what Hilti system, which is based on UL or FM, what you require, can be selected. So this FireStop selector is free of cost. You can use on our website anyway. And our engineers can help you also to guide you and help you to select the material. Then we have trainings. So these kind of trainings are individual. We can arrive to your office and provide you trainings, or to the contractors we provide trainings on how to do the application, how to select the system, and also the basic information on the FireStop topic. We have estimations, for example, through BIM solution we have, or through AutoCAD, we can help you to do the budgeting of bill or quantities estimation to be done prior to execution of the job site. So you can have a budgeting done for your tenders. So once you prepare your drawing for all your projects, we can come, or you have a BIM model for example, nowadays data center or infrastructure projects, you are running on BIM. So we can support through the BIM solution also how this material quantities can be estimated and specified. And not lastly, at the job site also we do inspection and estimation. Also we do the inspection services for you. And lastly, we can also help you with signing the C forms. So that is the complete plethora of services that we can help you with the complete project cycle. So if you go in product line or system solution that we have, generally this is the first step that we can help you is with your specification text, general notes, and typical details. So this QR code is also displayed outside. You can just scan the QR code and get your specification text, general notes, and drawings just by scanning this QR code. Or these are available on our website, or our engineers can help you come down to your office. Project to project, customized solution can be done through our engineering team. Our product baskets generally are set into 3 different categories. One is through penetration, then the inner construction joints, and also the facade joints. So all 3 applications are being covered through Hilti systems. And whatever application may be, for example, your data center, industry project, hotel project, commercial project, or a residential project, whatever project you have, we can customize all these kind of applications which are through penetrations, joints, or facade applications. Everything can be covered, including, for example, a very critical industrial project where you want to have long runs of cables, you want to paint it through for fire retardation. All these applications are covered, which are covered through UL system, EN system, comply to MS 1183, and also all these product lines, the application that we do are BOMBA certified. So when BOMBA comes for inspection, we can provide you the inspection guide also. And all these product lines have additional attributes of acoustics, paintable area, then we have dust-free or airflow-free. These kind of additional attributes are associated not only with the fire rating, but all these attributes can be helpful for your projects. For example, data center, you need to control the airflow. So airflow ratings can be provided. If you want dust-free environments, we have preformed devices which are completely dust-free. And not lastly, many of your projects nowadays are coming as a green building. So we can also help with the CPD and LEED certification points, where all our products are associated with few points which can immediately help you to cover your LEED points for your projects. So this helps also for your sustainable projects or LEED certification or green building certification. And lastly, when we complete the project, we have inspection guides also. So again, this QR code is displayed outside, where you can download the inspection guide. Whenever you go to the job site, you can just tick mark that all the process has been done, all the steps has been done, which can ensure that the application is done correctly. And if there are some deviations, we are always there at the job site to help you mitigate the challenges at the job site. So this QR code is also displayed outside on the booth. You can anytime go and scan, and also available on our website, which you can download. And also our engineers who can come down to your office and help you with all kind of services that we have displayed previously. Yeah, so on a summary, Spec to Site is a program from Hilti where end-to-end solution for your complete project cycle can be supported from Hilti engineering team and also the same sales team. So Yeah, that's a brief from my side. Thank you, and we can now move to the next session. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Can we have another round of applause for our guests from Hilti? And now proceeding to the next part, I'm very happy to let all of you know that we're going to have a technical presentation at the moment as part of the agenda. And it is by Engineer Mun Yew Fai. We shall now move on to the main technical session. So we have a look at what's going on screen right now. Before I formally invite him on stage, I'd like to give you a little bit of an intro as to who is actually coming on top. Engineer Mun Yew Fai graduated from the University Malaya in 2008 with a bachelor's degree in civil engineering and has more than 17 years experience in the construction industry. He is a registered ASEAN Chartered Professional Engineer and Professional Engineer with VEM, Corporate Manager, member of IEM, Associate Member of the Institution of Fire Engineers, IFE, Malaysia Branch, and individual member of Malaysian Fire Protection Association, MFPA. And the topic of what he's going to be discussing for today will be on enhancing building fire safety through effective fire stopping systems. It's a comprehensive fire protection system essential for the controlling of the spread of fire, protecting lives, and safeguarding assets. Integrating active and passive measures, effective compartmentation, and safe escape routes ensure occupant safety and builds confidence among building users, and owners. So without further ado, I'd like to call upon our first guest for the day. And yes, you can clap, no problem. It's no issue, okay? No restriction. Let's have Engineer Mun Yew Fai on stage.
Thank you, Mr. Vishal. Hi, a very good morning to everyone present in this hall and also the participants online. And thank you, PAM, for giving me this opportunity to share the topic today. My name is Mun Yew Fai, currently working as a coach and a room manager. And just now, MC also already introduced a little bit about myself, so I'm not going to repeat it. So today I'm going to talk about how do we actually enhancing the building fire safety through effective passive fire stop solutions. Okay, topics that I will cover today is why do we need to look into passive fire protections, and what is fire stops that help on the passive fire protections, and where do we use it, as well as how do we actually apply it correctly for our project and also implementations, and also sharing a little bit with you how do we look into the best practices for fire stopping applications. And I will wrap up with a little bit summary there. Now, passive fire protections, why do we need it? So taking the statistics that we are aware from Fire and Rescue Department, so this is actually taken from 2018, where there are already 50,000 fires happening and attended by the fire departments alone in 2016. And then it's actually involving 107 people died during the fire events. And not only humans' life, there's also causing the damages of the property and asset of estimated 2.5 billions. And throughout the years, the awareness is increasing, but still, there are many areas that we need to consider and take care in terms of the fire safety. And if you look at the photo on the right-hand side, it's actually the EPF building are caught in fire in 2018. And this actually, the facade is actually caught in the fire. And luckily, there's no major problems. And now it's still remain as a damaged state. All right, so basically, during the fire events, the major killing factor is not only the fire, but it's actually also involving the smoke and toxic gases being generated. So when the fire happens, it burns all the materials that is combustible and create all kind of carbon monoxide and actually causing the people inhale and also killed during the events. And there are also some fire statistics that we taken from the international references. For example, like there are actually 3.5 million fires happen per year worldwide. And about 45,000 actually died during these fire events. And you see that actually 3 out of 4 of the fire death is actually caused by the smokes. So we actually cannot just thought that the fire actually will kill, but instead the smoke and also the toxic gases generated also causing the people inhale and also died during the events. And also an interesting fact that about 57% of the fire deaths are actually not happening at the origins. This is actually because when caught on fire, people will escape. So that's why people will actually run away. But if let's say the escape route is not safe, not only causing by the fire, but also causing by the smoke. Actually, the smoke is traveling faster than the fire. All right, so this is why a lot of time, most of the cases are causing by the death causing by the smoke. And this is just a illustration how important is the fire compartmentation.
Typically, 5 minutes is all you get. Fire, and especially smoke, spread through a building much faster than most people think. Every year, about 3.8 million fires occur worldwide. While damage to assets is in the billions, the yearly death toll amounts to 45,000 persons. Much of this could have been prevented if correctly installed fire protection had been in place.
Architects, planners, engineers, and building owners are responsible for effective fire protection. Oftentimes, they do not realize that fire stop is not an option. It's a clear legal requirement, and negligence or improper execution is a violation of the law. Nearly 60% of fire deaths are not in the room of the fire's origin, and 3/4 of all fire deaths are caused by smoke. When there are through penetrations in walls and floors, toxic smoke easily spreads to adjacent rooms. The keys to effective fire protection are both active protection, such as detectors and sprinklers, but also passive protection. Passive means that penetrations in walls and floors have been sealed with approved fire stop products. This principle is called compartmentation. When installed correctly, fire and smoke won't be able to spread from one compartment to another. This allows for safe evacuation of people and protects valuable assets. The thing about compartmentation and fire protection is it's only as good as the products you use. And one always thinks that accidents only happen to other people? That's a false conclusion. It is the responsibility of architects, planners, engineers, and building owners to protect lives and assets by effective and well-designed compartmentation. Hilti offers innovative and internationally approved solutions. We recommend Hilti.
Yes, basically the passive fire protections, the important is we want to save life when there's a fire event, and secondly, we want to protect assets during the fire events. And nowadays, when we are designing buildings, we are not just looking at the safety, but also looking at different performance of the building. So sometimes the passive fire protections also contributing to enhancing the building's performance on different perspectives, as explained by Mr. Umesh just now, like for example, acoustic, thermal insulation, and so on. So today's topic, compartmentation, is something no stranger to us because you just look at the Tupperware and also the packed food tray that we have daily, day to day. So why do we have compartmentations? Basically, we want to segregate. So for the food, actually want to segregate the food to different compartments. And these concepts are perfectly also applied to the fire safety on the building. So actually, we want to provide the compartmentations to actually contain the fire as origin, minimize the risk, and also provide sufficient time for the people to evacuate. So this is actually a very important concept from the daily using, also applicable to what we design on our building. Now, just an illustration here. Basically, there are many clauses in the Uniform Building Bylaw as well as the Malaysian Standard MS 1183, which later on Architect Chong Lee Siong will also share you in more details, so I'm not going to share here. But fundamentally, the concept of compartmentation is to contain the fire to a given specific of fire period. So we call it fire resistant or fire rating. So you can see that there's a vertical compartmentation as well as horizontal compartmentation. It has the same function to actually provide the safe, sufficient time for the people to evacuate during the fire events. So you can see from the illustration here. So the fire is actually happening at the bottom. And once the active fire protections, like the alarm is being triggered, then the people alerted, then they are actually will be escaping through the safe compartmented escape route. And is given a sufficient time, like for example, 1 hour or 2 hours, which required to be designed according to the core practice and also the regulations. Now, like what I mentioned just now, basically the compartmentation is to keep the fire and the smoke in the place where it started and with a period of time. So with this work, we call it as a fire rating or fire resistance. So this is just an illustration, fire happening at the left compartment, and we want to provide a effective compartmentation so that the people on the right-hand side can have sufficient time to escape and go to the safe assembly point. Now, this comprehensive guidance also can be found on the Guide to Fire Protection Malaysia 3rd editions, and today is also available for purchase by the PAM booth outside there. So if anyone interested, you can actually get a copy from PAM Executive. And over the right-hand side, just to give you an idea that the comprehensive guidance on the passive fire protection is actually on the Chapter 4. And if talking about compartmentation, specifically for Chapter 4.3. And referring to the same guide as well on the Section 2.3, so it mentions that the building should be considered as a whole. Here you can see that the passive fire protection is actually very important that we need to consider during the planning stage as well as the design stage, so that it can use to mitigate the fire hazard and also the fire risk. So it also further mentions that subdividing the buildings into compartments, both vertically and horizontally, is actually to contain the outbreak of the fire on the smoke spread and also the fire spread. So an effective passive fire protection only can achieve during good planning design at the beginning as well as design construction, so that it can provide the basic functions of the building on the fire safety. All right? And speaking about compartmentation, a very important element is fire rating or fire resistance. So basically, the compartment that form this compartmentation basically are walls, floors, and even partitions. So this is all the vertical element and also the horizontal elements. And speaking about how do we consider or look into fire rating, basically is also can be found on the guidebook. So fundamentally, when fire happens, we need to ensure that the building is stable and structurally sound. So that's why this is one of the consideration. And for the building design, engineers, they are also need to ensuring the buildings are given the right fire rating through the Eurocode design. So they are designing the slab, column, wall, actually also required to be fire rating according to Eurocode. All right. Secondly, it's also important that it's about the integrity. So this integrity is actually the ability to resist the fire and smoke spread from one compartment to the other compartment. So this is also another very important consideration. And last but not least is the insulations. Basically is the ability of thermal insulations to resist within a temperature limit from the exposed side to the unexposed side. So all these three elements actually forms the fire rating, and also you can get the further reference from the guidebook. And in the case when there's an opening to the compartment, so very fundamental elements that we have every day to day. We want to enter from one compartment to the other compartment through a door. If let's say the compartment is a fire-rated compartment, basically the rating is 0 when there's an opening. So there's always why we see this very common wording. And within this compartment, you also can see here the live example. Why there's an instruction here. It's actually a very important message to everyone to ensure this door to be closed all the time to ensure effective compartmentation and fire protections. And this is also Arahan from Jabatan Bomba as well. So we look at it, maybe it's something very simple, but actually it forms a very important safety for our occupants on the building. And apart from the door opening, basically there are many hidden areas that we may not aware, but actually very essentials. So all these unavoidable openings and gaps are actually caused by the fundamental MEP services, mechanical, electrical, and plumbings, which providing the services for our building's performance and basic functions, like the air cons, electricals, and also the water supply and so on. So all these things, unavoidably, they are required to be passing through the compartment wall as well as the compartment floor. And when there's an opening and gaps, this must be sealed and remain sealed to maintain its fire resistance or fire rating. So there's an example here. The penetration can be happening at the wall, on the floor, as well as the joints on the building side and also top of the wall joints. So sometimes when we are designing some commercial buildings, they are actually by the curtain wall, the full height curtain wall. So normally there will be always gaps at the perimeter. So all these weak points need to be sealed out with the right fire stop solutions. Now this is actually just a real case where, like I mentioned just now, not only the door, but also there are many piping, ducting, and services are actually penetrating through the fire-rated compartment. And over the right-hand side here is actually the joints on the perimeter. So if, let's say, all these weak points are not being sealed, basically the fire rating is 0. And of course, this is required to be sealed out by the fire stop. So then we need to understand what is fire stops. Basically, it's a form of passive fire protections to protect and seal the openings and joints on the fire-rated wall to restore its fire rating. So if, let's say, a more precise definition and also guidance, actually you can make reference to the Malaysian standard of MS 1183, section 3.52, where it mentioned that fire stopping is to seal and close the imperfection between the elements of any joint to restrict the penetration of the smoke or flames. All right? And how the fire stop system actually get the rating? Basically, is through the system testings. So fundamentally, like Mr. Umesh mentioned just now, there are 3 major applications regarding the fire stop systems, which is through penetration on the first one, joints that can happen in any part of the building, and then perimeter edge of slabs is mainly relevant to the curtain wall. So the testing actually, we make reference to the international standards. If let's say we are talking about the design requirements complying to the Eurocode, then the testing would be EN 1366 Part 3 for the true penetration and EN 1366 Part 4 for the joints. And if let's say we are handling the projects which is the client from the US base, probably we are actually requiring to refer to the American standards. Then the testing standards also for the fire stop system, actually we make reference to STM as well as the UL. So for example, the true penetrations, the STM will be E814 and also the UL 1479. And locally, we also need to refer to the testing guideline approved and also by the BOMBA, right? So there's also a lot of testing are also still referring to the generic testing standards such as the BS 476. And just a little bit additional information here. BS 476 are actually very legacy test standards, and I think over the Europe side, they are also part by part are phasing out. And I think I also understand that it's going to be totally phased out in 2029 or 2030. So the current trend is actually more and more updated testing standard with the Eurocode standards and also the ASTM. But importantly, we need to look the fire stop system, not only the individual product itself, but also as an entire assembly. Because the fire stop alone does not have any rating. It needs to mesh its function together with other compartment elements as well as the penetrants. So we take a look on the video how the testing is being carried out. So of course, all the installation of the fire stop systems need to be according to the guidelines and also the testing standards. All right. So for this case, it's being installed as a mixed penetration, put into the furnace, and then let it expose to the ISO fire to the relevant requirements. And then we take the measurement and also take the record to see its performance. So after testing, you take out for this whole stream test additionally by the ASTM, which need to ensure the stability after the things being burned off. So an effective fire protection system is that the exposed side will be totally damaged, but actually the unexposed side should be still remain intact. So this is actually the wall fire protection systems where the unexposed side is actually still intact and the fire side is actually all damaged. So it actually need to serve to contain the fire within the compartment. And here I just give you an example of system testing under the European standards. So how they look into the fire ratings. So you can see that basically after the testing, they will come up with a comprehensive technical reports. And it actually need to contain all kind of testing information like the pipe diameters, thickness, the material, and last but not least is actually the fire rating. So 120 indicating 2 hours and 60 mean 1 hour. Okay. And not only the system testing applied to the true penetrations, but also applicable to the joints as well. Similar system testing are being carried out, but according to different guidelines. But for joints, actually also catering not only for fire safety, but also other attributes like the movement capability. So sometimes the building will be subjected to deflections when during its service life. So maybe subject to the wind load, subject to the seismic, and so on. So all this kind of movement or displacement is being tested alongside with the fire safety perspective. And for everyone informations, fire stop is just not sealants, but it can also come with different forms and different types. So for example, some basic fire stop solutions, including like the mortar, sealants, foam. So we need to look into what are the requirements and also different considerations like the penetrance, what is the fire rating, what is the sizes, opening, and so on. And throughout the years, with the advancing of technology, there are more and more innovative products are also being created to actually serve the same passive fire protection purposes. We call it a preform or factory assembled devices. So it can be a composite boards, it could be a sleeve, blocks, cast-in device, and so on. Actually, it forms a more productive and provide you a more enhanced safety in terms of installation and also taking on to the passive fire protection perspective. And among the materials, there are also different kind of materials being used, which is indomescent type, ablative reactions, endothermic reactions, and insulations. And among here, the most important terminology or the material type is the indomescence. So it's actually an ability of the material to expand when the elevation of the fire or exposed to the heat. So why I mentioned this is important. Let's take a look on how it works. So imagine that there's a combustible penetration through the fire-rated wall. So you can see that, for example, the plastic pipe. So plastic pipe, when it's being burned, is easily melt off. So it will leave the opening, and we require the fire stopping to have the indomescent material to actually expand and close up the opening to prevent the fire or the smoke spread to the other side of the compartment. So this is an illustration how the indomesation works. And again, I also would like to share with you that the Guide to Fire Protection also provide you a comprehensive guidance on how do we consider fire stop systems. So here actually you can refer to this diagram 4.3.5.2K, which is the fire stops for pipes for the passive fire protections. And specifically, they also mentioned that for fire stopping of combustible pipes, it required the fire stopping material to be indomescent. And again, it actually can come into a different type. So depending on the design requirement, if let's say you are catering for especially large pipes, then you need to have a fire stop pipe collar because you need to contain the fire stop and then forcing it to expand inwards. And then also you have different type of form as well. And for fire stopping, basically we can look into two major applications. All right, the first is a true penetration, and the second one is the joints. So all of this, we need to treat it as a system solutions, and then to tackle all very complex penetration passing through these fire-rated elements. And putting into the more easier way for your reference, basically, joints can be looked into, like the wall joints, the top wall joints, the edge of slabs, and so on. And on the right-hand side is basically some common applications for the true penetrations, which is the pipe penetration, electrical cables, and very complex M&E services passing through the fire-rated wall and floors. And after looking into the what is a fire stopping, let's look into where it's being used. All right. So like what I explained just now, basically there are many unavoidable gaps and opening penetrated by these MEP services and very commonly found in the modern buildings. And all these services actually not only running horizontally on top of us, but sometimes it also running vertically at some utility rooms and the side of the building, which is covered by the room. But nevertheless, all these are actually penetrated and require the opening for it to pass through. And all these gaps, openings, need to be sealed up. And fundamentally, we need to locate all these weak points within a building so that we can select the right fire stop systems to tackling it to provide the right fire safety for the occupants. So fundamentally, there are like, for example, sanitary plumbing, mechanical penetration by the air cons, by the ducting and so on, and electrical penetration and so on. So all these things are very commonly weak points can be found in our buildings. And not only the fundamental can be found in the building, but also there are many different types of buildings also requiring different attributes. So for example, healthcare. We know that it's mostly operate 24 hours and throughout the years. And it's actually most of the time, it's a high level of occupancy by the patient and also medical practitioners. So that's why the fire safety levels we require to take care is much more higher. And there are also many other attributes like, for example, hygiene, airflow control. We also need to take a look on it, and also ensuring that the fire stopping system are also matching this kind of consideration and design requirements. And nowadays, many investors coming in, especially now in the market, the hot topic is data centers. So all these data center operators, they come in, invest, their facility are multi-billions. All right, so they are also operating 24 hours non-stop, and all their assets are very expensive, and also it required to serve its basic functions for providing data storage for the user locally and globally. All right, so this is actually a case happening in Finland, 2011. You can see that from the timestamp, so the fire happened at 5:44, and just less than 2 minutes, actually the smoke's already spread throughout the corridor, which still a lot of people are actually try to running away, like the patient and the medical practitioner. And after the investigations, they find that actually there are many weak points within that compartment where there are many openings are not being sealed. That's why the smoke and also the fire can spread in just 1 or 2 minutes. All right, so this is how critical and important that we need to ensuring that the fire stop system are actually work properly and effectively. And just for reference here, actually there are many critical areas in a hospital that we require our attentions and also protected with the right fire stop systems. So for example, the surgery room, the patient room area, ICU, M&E shaft, and so on. So all these actually are critical areas that we need to look into it, and any gaps and any openings, we need to seal out with fire stop systems. And like I mentioned just now, data center is something now a hot topic in the market. And same things as per the hospital, there are also many different design conditions and elements that we need to cater for. So fundamentally in a data centers, you always have the data hall, electrical room, and mechanical room. And other than that, there's also admin officers, fire-rated corridors, staff station, and so on. All these things are actually essential and critical areas that we need to cater for it in terms of fire protections. So just give you an idea, not comprehensive, but most of the important elements, like for example, cable penetrations is something we expect in the data center halls. So we need to think about something which can allow the cables to passing through the fire-rated elements, like for example, cable transit, like electrical penetrations, we also look into it, and the pipe penetrations. And for this data center infrastructures, normally we are actually not only looking into the basic design requirements, but some areas actually required to be fiber-free. So sometimes we also heard the design like clean room requirement. So we also need to cater for this kind of requirement when we are selecting the fire stopping systems. So this kind of preform solutions actually perfectly fitted this perspective, which is the clean requirements. Because if let's say using the conventional type, the sealant type, basically you need to have the mineral as a packing material. When there's a construction inside this compartment, basically it will contaminate with the fibers. All right, so we need to think about using different type of innovative solutions to tackling on the fire safety perspective. Now, other than the fire safety, just now Mr. Umesh also mentioned that there are other attributes also important for our buildings to functions. Like if let's say we are in the hospital, basically we require the acoustic performance as well. All right. Then also movement capability and other attributes. Now, we know the solutions, we know the systems, how do we design on the buildings. But when it's not being implemented at the job site, actually it doesn't bring you the right intended functions and performance. So we need to also understand how it's being applied at the job site and how do we do it right. All right. Now just give you an example and illustration here. So here is actually a steel pipe penetrate through a wall with an opening of 230 and 2-hour fire rating. So basically, we need to understand the perspective on the design requirements from fire engineering and what are the regulations from the BOMBA and UBBL, and then any other code of practice that we need to reference to, like for example, the MS 1183. So the three fundamental elements that we need to look into is assembly type. So question that you need to ask is, what type of building elements that you are requiring for? Whether it's a floor, whether it's a wall, and then what are the construction that being penetrated? So what are the material like? For example, it could be a concrete wall, it could be a masonry wall, or other materials like sandwich panel and so on. What are the dimensions of the opening and so on? Then secondly, we need to look into what are the penetrating items. So just now I mentioned that in a building, fundamentally we have M&E services. It can be ducting, it can be electrical conduits, cable tray, and so on. So all these things we need to understand so that we can select the right fire stop solutions to tackle the fire safety perspective. And last but not least, very importantly, we need to understand what is the fire rating of these particular elements. So this is actually need to align and understand together with other design considerations as effective compartmentations. Now, fire stop solution is something you can also find the listing from the provider library. So for example, if let's say you are make reference to the UL, basically there are comprehensive UL listings in their library and their website. And then for us as a fire stop specialist and provider, we also offering the fire stop selector in our HUD online website, which can enable the designers to do the relevant filtering and design according to the project requirements. So for example, if let's say you look into the true penetrations, then you can select what type of penetrants, what are the sizes, and so on. Then it can actually filter and provide you the relevant approval and UL listing. Okay, so this is actually over the right hand side. We have a fire stop selectors for everyone to use. Now, fire stop system, if let's say we are talking about the testing under the American standard, which is the UL. So this is an example how it looks like. It's actually a comprehensive information about the fire stop systems that I mentioned just now. And over the right hand side is testing under the European standard with the ETA approval. So this is actually called the European Technical Assessment Approval. Similarly, it's also a testing for the fire stop systems. So this is an example here. So if let's say you ask which type that suitable. So for information, for POMBA's perspective, basically they are, POMBA is accepting the testing standard from the America as well as the testing standard from the European standards. So it also comes back to what are the project's requirements and also how do we actually better advise our client, all right? So sometimes, for example, the client actually from the America, then most likely the specification, design requirement could be also fully referred to the American standards, all right? And locally, of course, we need to get the approval from the BOMBA, and this is actually an example of the BOMBA certificates. And later on, I think Architect Chong Lee Siong will also share more about this perspective. And sometimes, if let's say we are not able to find a particular fire stop system solutions within the library from the provider as well as from the manufacturer, then something called engineering judgment can be done. So how do we do it? Basically, it's also basing on the available fire stop listing or system, and then we understand what are the site-specific situations, and then we see how do we come up with some recommendation if we're able to find the alternative solutions to tackle the fire safety perspective. But bear in mind that these engineering judgments are always generated by the fire stop manufacturer, and it's actually a single site-specific applications. Meaning to say, a particular engineering judgment for this project, it cannot be used on another project or another locations. All right, so this need to be specific site situation and to all the design consideration and requirements. And understanding how to install it also very important. So fundamentally, we need to know all this basic information like what are the fire-rated elements being penetrated, what is the penetrance, and also what are the firetop system that refer to. So for example, this case is actually referring to the UL listing, and there's always a system UL listing reference number that you can cross-checking and refer to. And just an illustration here, if let's say this actually not being installed properly, you have the cover seat, yes, but it's actually installed being upside down. Actually, you cannot use it. It's not serving its function. Same case go to the fire stop. We understand it from the requirement, from the design, from the specification. But if let's say it's not being translated properly and correct to the job site, it won't serve its functions. Okay? Now, I think after the fire stop being installed at the job site, so a lot of times we might be having dilemma on how do we inspect it, how do we actually locate whether it's a compliant or not. So this is actually some of the example that I would like to share with you. You can obviously see that like this pipe penetration, there's no fire stop actually being installed at all. So imagine that any fire events happen anytime. And sometimes we are not aware also, we are actually inside the building. Actually, we are actually in the risk, all right? So for us, we also need to understand that most of the time we are actually inside a building as one of the occupants. So it's actually very extremely important that we need to ensuring that the building is being protected by all kinds of fire safety measures.
The test scenarios featured in this
Let's look at the video
were created in UL facilities
when the situation
and
of
designed to simulate realistic
not using
room
the right solution
configurations and fire
and
progression.
not being installed properly.
Each scenario includes a matched set of penetrations and joints, one that is fire stopped correctly using a UL listed fire stop design, and one that is fire stopped incorrectly using an unrated design. All correct materials and installations represented in this video comply with UL 1479 for penetrations and UL 2079 for joints. These initial scenarios illustrate a very common mistake. While fire stop sealants have been used in the incorrect installations, they're not the appropriate products specifically listed for these applications. In the case of the plastic pipe, the non-compliant installation results in a complete failure of fire and smoke containment within a short time. For the tested cable bundle scenario, the non-compliant installation resulted in a considerable amount of smoke passage within a short time, due to the fact that fire stop putty listed as part of some tested cable penetration systems was used in a way that did not fully meet the tested system's installation requirements. Attention to detail is critical.
Yeah, so you can see that the effect of if not being installed properly, one thing, if not using the right fire stop solutions, then you will end up with easily fire spread and also the smoke spread. And in order to detect all kind of non-compliances, basically, we can do it through the site inspections. Again, we need to understand the fire stop systems, what are being considered during the design, what are the suitability of the applications, and whether it's being installed by the trained installer. All right, so we also need to understand whether the implementation and installation of job site being carried out by the competent personnel or not. And during the field inspection, basically, you can do a visual inspection by looking at the appearance. But if let's say you are suspected and not sure, then you can also carry out some destructive tests and repair later. And importantly, we need to document all the approvals or the inspections accordingly for Q&A and also building maintenance purposes. And taking reference from the inspections guideline from the international standard like STM E2147, basically it provides a very generic inspection form. And similarly, the International Firestop Council also providing the same perspective on their inspection manual. And through this reference, basically, we as a firestop specialist and manufacturers, we also come up with a more comprehensive and relevant to the true penetration reference to all these inspection forms to actually help the industry practitioner to have a better implementation on the inspection at the job site. And this is actually also taken from our inspection guidebook for fire protections. Just now, Mr. Umesh also showed you can actually download it with the QR code. Later on, I will also show as well. So this is actually some of the visual inspection and incorrect installations that you can detect when, let's say, you have the random inspection at your projects and also for your site representative. And how is the good installation look like? So it will be something like this. Very neat, tidy, and preferably also with the stickers. So normally the labeling and the stickers we're mentioning who is the installers, when it's being installed, what are the approval and system being used, as well as what are the firestop product being used. So this is actually a good practice for us to have a quick checking what is the information regarding this installation points. Okay. And speaking about the inspection guidebook, basically you can scan this QR code or you can take a snapshot of this and scan the QR code later, and then you can download this guidebook for free. So not only about the inspection guidance, but you also can learn about some of the topic that I discussed earlier. So it can be also available through this book. It's a free copy. Okay. Yep, so just giving you some of what are the best practices that we can implement for our fire stopping applications. Okay. So like Mr. Umesh mentioned just now, basically we actually recommended approach called spec to site. So during the design and planning stage, we look into the local and design requirements from the BOMBA, from the UBBL, from the Malaysian standard, and then we look into the right fire stopping systems, and then also putting a clear specification in our documents and also the requirements. All right. So it's actually form the basis of specifying the fire stop to actually encountering for this weak point and gaps. So over the right hand side, we also cannot forget on the installation. So some of the measures that you can take is ensuring that the installers are being trained and also following the installation instructions from the manufacturer and also according to the listing system. And then for good practice, it should be inspected by the trained inspectors. And why this specification is very important. Basically, it provide a clear instructions of its performance and intent for the passive fire protections, and then it also form the contractual documents to minimize the risk. So, especially for us designing the buildings, we are actually helping the clients to ensuring the buildings are designing to its safety and perform. So, fire safety, we need to also considering fire stop as well. So it's actually also help us to factor in all the relevant causes for this building to be constructed and functioning. All right. And of course, like Mr. Umesh presented just now, this is actually the general and typical details that we develop and also aims to help the industry practitioners to have easier to form up the relevant requirements when it comes to passive fire protection as well as fire stop systems. So actually it's come with the Microsoft Word format, can be edited and custom made to the project requirement as well. So just a wrap up of the topic being discussed today. Basically, compartmentation is something fundamental and required by the rule and regulations. And all the openings, as well as the gaps, must be sealed. And it need to be sealed by the fire stopping, and we cannot just look into it as a material, but we need to actually considering as a rated system. How do we do it right? The fire stop systems need to be tested and with the relevant approval for these applications, for the surface penetrations, for the joints. And then we also need to clearly put the requirements in our design, in the specifications, so that the implementation teams know our design intents. And then the installation by trained installer and also inspected by the trained inspectors. Okay, so this is a wrap up and summary on how do we considering fire stop systems. And of course, fire events is something can happen anytime, anywhere, including where we live. So remember, we actually living in the building more than the time that we are outside. So it's very important that we need to ensure our building is safe by the effective fire stopping solutions, and then it protect our life as also asset. All right. So that's all for my sharing today, and I would appreciate if let's say you can provide me some feedback on the topic I'm discussed today through this QR code. All right. So this QR code also found in your goodie bags. You can do it now or do it later. Also, never mind, no problem. And inside your goodie bag also, you can find the technical resources that I mentioned just now. All right, so it actually comes with a different QR codes. So whatever information or the technical resources that you're interested, you can scan and also download for free. And if let's say you find it very troublesome to scan so many QR codes, basically I also providing you just one QR code. You tell us what document that you want. Then our team will deliver to you. Okay? So this is something that we can support you as on the designing the effective fire protection solutions. All right? So just share with us some of the details. Then our team will get in touch with you with the relevant technical resources. All right? And then last but not least, if let's say you guys would like to get a chance to win the lucky draw, so during the coffee break, please feel free to draw your name card to our lucky draw box, and then you are entitled for you will have the chance. All right? Thank you.
So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. I hope you enjoyed your breakfast just now. We're going to continue with our second presentation of the day. And at this point, it's actually my pleasure to invite PAM speaker, architect Chong Lee Siong, to deliver the next session. Now, before I formally invite him on stage, I'd like to mention what the talk is going to be briefly about. And of course, I'd like to give you a little bit of bio. Now, the talk we're going to refer to after this is prescriptions and applications of fire-rated walls and fire stopping in compliance with the Uniform Building Bylaws. And it outlines the requirements and practical applications of fire-rated walls and fire stopping systems in compliance with the UBBL. It also highlights key provisions governing fire compartmentation, material performance and installation standards while addressing common design and construction challenges. So a little bit of bio before I invite our speaker on stage. Architect Chong Lee Siong graduated with a Bachelor of Arts in Architecture as well as a Bachelor in Architecture with Honours 1990 from Deakin University. Architect Lee Siong was a council member of Pertubuhan Architect Malaysia and has served in the Practice Projects Committee, the Disciplinary Committee, the Building Standards and Legislation Committee, and Continuing Professional Development CPD Committee. He also served as an Honorary Secretary in 2006 and 2007, and as Vice President in 2007 to 2008. So, without further ado, I'd like to call upon our following speaker, Architect Chong Lee Siong, on stage for his presentation.
Thank you and good morning, everybody. Always a pleasure to be back in KL. I am from KL, so what am I talking about? I was in Penang just 3 weeks ago delivering a seminar, and yes, the Penang guys heard this 3 weeks ago. So I'll share the same thing to you. So it's a privilege, and thank you again to Hilti. It's always a pleasure to have such a supportive friend in our building industry, to support us in our programs and to work with us in our work. So today will be particularly on two aspects of two elements of building material or building elements: fire-rated walls and fire stops. Very, very specifically on these two things. Going back into the Uniform Building Bylaws and to fully understand what is expressed in the Uniform Building Bylaws and what is implied in the Uniform Building Bylaws. As always, I would have to start off with this. Let us fully understand what is actually the Uniform Building Bylaws. We are always using the Uniform Building Bylaws by default as the guide on how we're going to do our design, as the guide to how we specify things, and most importantly, can my design be approved or not? Can Bomba approve this or not? No. But we have to understand the Uniform Building Bylaws, for all intents and purposes, is actually just a law. All right? And by nature of it being a law, it can only be written in a manner that defines the very, very fine line between are you within the law or are you subjecting yourself to prosecution? Literally, and the architects, we are, in a way, we are the custodian of the law. Why? Because we are the principal submitting person. So the law is actually written just for that purpose. It is a law, right? Our Attorney General is a law gazetted and passed by Parliament. So the latest iteration is 2021. UBBL 1984, bracket, Amendment 2021, and this has been gazetted by Parliament around about December 2021. And as with our Uniform Bylaw, all this while, the physical adoption of the bylaws will have to be gazetted by the respective states. Right, but in this case, today we're actually talking about the fire safety aspect, which is particularly on the Part 7 and Part 8 of the UBBL. Now, Bomba, for the longest of time, if you recall, the first major amendment to the bylaws, which is Amendment 2012, you recall more than 10 years ago, we had a lot of these issues whereby we are saying that, yes, the new UBBL 2012 at that time, Part 7 and Part 8, all fire safety measures will be this. We have amended all this according to this and this and this. But when we get down into the physical building plan submission, we go to the different states. And then we find that what the guys are telling us is that, UBBL 2012 has not been gazetted in the state yet. It's yet to be gazetted. So we're still referring to UBBL 1984. And the local Bomba stations or the local Bomba state administration are also saying the same thing. So we had a lot of issues, 10 years ago, 10 years of worth of troubles. So now, to ensure that everything is absolutely uniform, the Director General of Bomba, as of, was it January 2022? Now I can't recall the exact date now. He did actually issue a directive. Now, when the Director General of Bomba issues a directive, he issues it under the powers of the Fire Services Act. The Director General, as the head of Bomba, is given the full authority to issue directives. And when the Director General issues a directive, it's as good as the PMX issuing you a directive. When it comes to fire safety, of course, it doesn't go beyond that. So the directive is issued to all Bomba personnel. In other words, it's an internal directive back to Bomba, saying that irregardless of which state you're practicing in, irregardless of the status of the adoption or the gazetting of the bylaws in the respective states, as far as fire safety is concerned, UBBL Amendment 2021 shall be the definitive law. Not a standard, I didn't say it's a standard, it is the law. So everything that's expressed in the UBBL 2021, Part 7 and Part 8 that is, shall be the law, right? And of course, when you practice a law, there will also be what is implied by the law, right? So let's understand that fully, yeah? And now, the UBBL is also by nature, because it's a law, you see, so it has to be prescriptive in the way it's written. Now, a law cannot say, oh, you have to drive very carefully on the road, right? If you don't drive carefully, okay, you're breaking the law. You cannot have a law that says that, because what do you mean by driving carefully? You know, right? So the law is by nature prescriptive, because it is the law. So by being prescriptive, it means you have to draw lines. You cross that threshold, aha, gotcha, you're breaking the law. You're just within the threshold, whether you're actually doing it right or wrong. But yeah, according to the law, you did not break the law, you know, so you're actually okay. So that's the bugger with the laws. The laws are that way. Now, we first have to understand that first, right? Then later on, I will go through on these particular two items that we're talking about today as to what the law actually means. More importantly, how did we arrive at this kind of a law? Then by fully understanding the parameters that brought us to setting the law in this manner, that brought us to writing the law in such a manner, then good. That is how then we learn how to practice as the architects to be within the framework of the law, all right? So prescription means that the prescriptions are actually very absolute. It says that whatever it is, it shall not be smaller than this dimension, or it cannot be bigger than that dimension. Or they give you a range, you know, it cannot be shorter than this, but it cannot be longer than that. So within these two extremes, you're within the law. You go beyond these two extremes, you're out of the law. Yeah? And some clauses in the bylaw is also as simple as yes or no. If it's like this, yes, you comply. If it's not that, no, you don't comply. Oh my goodness, you know, then you have to start thinking, how do we define these things? Something cannot be so clear-cut, you know. Are you a Malaysian or are you not? Oh dear. Okay, how do we define it? Okay, so that is the law, right? Now, as we write the laws, as things became so complicated, we also realize the laws have its limitations. In order to support the law, we do then need standards. We do then need our guidebook, the red book, yeah? So please buy it. The red book is actually the guide as to how to interpret the laws and to give you descriptions as to how you do things. And also, as a way of writing the law, to allow a greater degree of professional discernment or greater degree of professional input, instead of just relying on prescriptions. That means you draw the line so strictly, you leave almost no room for professional interpretation. The law is also now, in a lot of things, we have diverted it to refer to a standard. So that means, instead of previously, I'll just take an example of what's the number of the bylaw that talks about the construction of fire doors, right? If you all remember, if you're old enough, back in 1984, when you're talking about how to specify a fire door, if you refer to the law actually, the whole law is written in a manner that you shall construct the fire door in this manner. And it says you shall use timber frame, you shall use this, you shall use how many layers of laminates, etc., etc. You shall use wire glass, and it cannot be, the wire glass cannot be beyond a certain proportion of the surface area of the door, etc., etc. So that was actually the law, would you believe it? Right? But then we came up with the Malaysian Standards 1703. And 1703 is the standard on how you test a fire door. And the criteria, the design parameters, and the performance parameters expected of a fire door, and the manner of testing the fire door, right? So now, fast forward to today, the clause on fire doors is replaced by just one sentence. all fire doors shall be constructed in accordance with Malaysian Standards 1703. Right, so as we develop new ideas, or as we improve our standards, and as we upgrade our understanding of construction of fire doors, as we allow for more variations into the configuration of fire doors, etc., all we have to do is to amend and to improve the Malaysian Standards 1703. We just update it, and we don't have to come back to the law to change the law, because changing the law is a very, very tedious process. First, you have to have the technical committees, you have to go through all the things, then you have to go through the workshop, then you go for public comments, etc. Finally, you have to deliver all of this via the Attorney General, and the Attorney General will say, okay, now this is ready for the sitting in the Parliament. Then you go to the Parliament, and you have all our politicians that we voted into Parliament to argue over a law that they have no idea what it's all about. They just want to say, oh, I'm on opposition, I oppose, and the existing government, no, we have to endorse this law. So it's a very, very difficult process, yeah. So UBBL 2021, we have taken cognizance of all of those things. We tried our very best to ensure that important elements are now referenced to a standard rather than being a prescriptive. And of course, certain prescriptions shall remain, because that one just sets the framework of how we do it. Yeah? So again, fast forward to today, we've got the beautiful red book out there now, so please buy it. Yeah, because it's many, many years of hard work, sweat and tears and all that. Some pages you may have noticed some watermarks, The copy that you buy will, because it's the first print, it will contain certain typo errors, so please forgive us. It's very obvious if you read a typo error. It should be very, very obvious that they're typos. Yeah, if you need to just check it and clarify it, yes, feel free. If you do have my number, give me a text. I can then just verify for you that those are actually typos or otherwise. We are now trying to get the reprint done to fix up all these typos. But please don't wait for the reprint, because I'm not going to tell you when it's going to come out. Buy it first. Just buy it first, and we promise you when we get the reprint, we will inform you what are the pages that needs to be replaced. Right? Okay, but please, yes, do buy the book. And as a bonus, if you like me, I can just initial on the book for you. That would hopefully improve the value of your book. Okay, right, so coming back to this, so for all elements that we can actually describe now, we won't describe it in the bylaws now. The prescription shall be, you shall then design it and implement it in accordance to the Malaysian standard or any other standard that we may point to. Yeah? So just as a main reference, we do have Malaysian Standards 1183. So certain things will be pointed to, you have to comply with Malaysian Standards 1183. Like smoke control, we just say MS 1780 for smoke control, yeah, fire doors 1703, etc., etc., etc. All right, so that's how we should look at the law. That's how we should read it, and that's how we should apply it. All right, okay. So we'll go back to now the topic of today. Just two elements that we're going to talk about today, all related to fire safety, fire compartmentation, and fire stops. So first would be the elements of walls. And then there'll be the specific element of fire stop as to how it was prescribed in the UBBL. Going back to the main concept first, the four main concepts of fire safety, very simple, it's never changed from the very first day. First concept is always evacuation, second one is passive containment, third is active intervention, and then last but absolutely not the least, access for firefighting and rescue. And in the references to the UBBL, evacuation, passive containment, and active intervention will have to have very specific references to first the purpose group of your building, then the size, volume, and configuration of your building with reference to the individual purpose groups. So all of those things will be then classified into all the various schedules, UBBL schedules 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And those will then give you very precise prescriptions on the design for evacuation, passive containment, and active intervention. All right, then for prescriptions regarding access for firefighting and rescue, The prescriptions are applicable to all building types, right? They are not specific to any purpose group because access to firefighting and rescue is universal. So the only reference will be to the height of the building and the volume of the building, irregardless of its purpose group. So that is the uniform application for all building types, insofar as access for firefighting and rescue is concerned. Yeah? Bomba does not discriminate. If there's a fire, they have to come, irregardless of what you're doing in the building. You can be running an illegal drug refining process in that factory. Okay, bomba doesn't matter, you know, if you're on fire, they will come. So you do have to provide them all the necessary access for firefighting and rescue, right? So that's universal. Okay, now we are going to talk about firewalls and fire stops. So therefore, let's go through this basic methodology, right? First, when we design the safe evacuation, we make this assumption that only one fire at one location at one time. Right, again, see, we are talking about the bylaw. So a bylaw, if you want to design a safe building, say, yeah, our law should protect us. Our law should specify and prescribe exactly how we're going to design the safest building in the world. All buildings are the safest. Excuse me, safest in what sense? You know, do you want every single building, even my own little residential house, to be designed to withstand a nuclear blast? Maybe. No, of course not, because that's way, way, way beyond the risk, the element of risk that we're designing for, okay? Unless you're in Singapore. Singapore, of course, all residential buildings, they've got what they call it, the safe room, yeah, the bunker room, okay? Yeah, Singaporeans, they feel a lot more threatened by Malaysia, so. Right, but yeah, you have to identify the element of risk, and you have to set a certain threshold, right? You cannot possibly put in the law for you to design for all risk, right? So in the UBBL, it's just using this very fundamental basic concept that we are only designing on the basis that there will be one fire. The maximum risk at any point in time is for only one fire to occur at the one location. It doesn't matter where it is, the fire can occur anywhere, right? So your building has to be designed on the basis that it will be in compliance for the occasion of a one fire occurring at the one location at the one time. Right, then, coming on to compartmentation. So the purpose of compartmentation is this. You are to then contain that one fire, your hypothetical fire, within that one location at all times. So that would be the basic concept, right? How do we do that? Basically, that's it. So the UBBL, in summary, just gives you this single parameter. You are to design, as far as compartmentation is concerned, it is to contain that one fire, that one hypothetical fire that may occur any part in the building. You are just to contain that one fire in that location at all times. Right? So it comes back to that. So good, now we go straight into firewalls now. So in the UBBL, there are altogether 6 specific references or typology or elements mentioned with regards to fire-rated walls. First is party wall. 2 is separating wall. 3 is compartment wall. 4 is external wall. 5, protecting structures, i.e. we're referring to the wall component of a protecting structure, since today we're talking about walls. Right? And 6, a partition. It's not called a wall, but it's a partition wall. Right? So these are the 6 references in the UBL, 6 elements as far as fire safety is concerned that we have to take note of. Why make things so complicated? You know, you draw 2 lines as a wall is a wall, you know. Leave it to the contractor to give us the best price on how he wants to build the wall. No, it's not as simple as that, obviously. So we have to understand why would this be. So first, what's the definition of a party wall? UBBL 2021, bylaw 2, interpretation, a party wall. You asked me to stop here for just a moment. Fire safety is part 7 and part 8 of the Uniform Building Bylaws, right? Okay, what's the first clause number of part 7? Are you giving a lucky draw here? No. Sorry, my bad. All right, the interpretations commencing part 7 and part 8 is actually Bylaw 133. Right, so, okay, yeah, it just starts from there. Bylaw 133 will be all the interpretations of all the elements contained within part 7 and part 8. So here, the interpretation of Bylaw 2. You're saying that, hey, hang on a sec, well, why are we going to 2? Just now I'm mentioning we're talking about fire safety. Why are we talking about Bylaw 2? Bylaw 2 is actually just the first part. Yeah? So here's where the catch is. A party wall is actually a constructional element. It is not exactly, well, it is in some ways related to its performance, related to fire safety, but its primary definition as a party wall is actually a constructional element. That's why it's in, I think this should be in parts 5, I think. Yeah, the bylaw specifically is bylaw 86, and I think 86 is in parts 5, which is a construction element. Right, so we do have to understand that, because in practice, I'm sure all of us have suffered the same problem. We go to Bomba, and then Bomba say, "Itu party wall ka." Yeah, aha, so you need this, and say, hey, hang on a sec, I'm talking about party wall. Why is Bomba involved in party walls? They are supposed to be involved in a party wall in another way, but not directly to the reference of party wall. Yeah. But anyway, let's just understand this first. So a party wall is referring to a wall that's used as a separation of adjoining buildings belonging to different owners. That is actually the legal interpretation of a party wall. Right? So they're different owners. Yeah? It's a wall meant to separate different owners. Now we go into Bylaw 86, which is the prescription of a party wall. What are the specific design prescription of a party wall? So first, all party walls shall generally be of not less than 200 millimeters in total thickness. So this is the first physical criteria of a party wall. That means what the law is actually saying is that in order to have a legal separation between you and your neighbor, you need something solid of no less than 200 millimeters in thickness. In other words, we want to ensure that your neighbor cannot possibly crawl his way or dig his way or drill his way through to your property. Yeah? You're actually physically separated from your neighbor by a solid material of no less than 200 millimeters thick. That is a primary criteria of what a party wall is. So it's actually a physical separation. Then it says of solid masonry, right? Or, and these are the revisions that we put in for UBBL 2021, or it can be constructed of other materials of various thicknesses if they comply with parts 5, 6, and 7 of these bylaws. And another new addition in bylaw 2021, it must have an acoustic performance of not less than STC 50 of sound transmission loss attenuation, STC rating. Yeah, so here you see, the original 200 millimeters has always been there. It asks for a solid 200 millimeters and solid masonry. It asks for something solid. It asks for a solid wall, 200 millimeters, just take separating you from your neighbor. So in our new revision, we added in consideration of the fact that we got other construction materials available now. You don't necessarily need to get a clay brick or a concrete block to construct your party wall, but it has, if you have other methods of construction, you just have to ensure that it complies with parts 5, 6, and 7 of these bylaws. And we add in another element where the original element is just a physical separation. Now we also want to give you acoustical separation. Right? So we dial in a performance criteria of STC 50 for party walls. Yeah? Okay, so it's purely construction requirements. Then there's also another part to Bylaw 86. In recognition of our common methods of construction today, such a party wall shall be made of 2 separate skins, each skin not less than 100 millimeters thickness. This is on the basis that you're sharing a party wall with your neighbor. So one day you decide to do renovations to your house, you decide to tear down your part of the wall, whatever. Yes, you tear down your 100 millimeters thick of the wall, up to your boundary, right? You don't tear down your neighbor's wall while you're doing your renovation. Your neighbor's not going to like you. You know, you do your renovation, supposedly you have STC 50s to separate you from a neighbor. The neighbor don't want to actually see you with the wall broken and see you doing your renovation, okay? Now, item 3, subclause 3, multi-storied residential buildings of reinforced concrete or other frame construction shall be constructed to the requirements of these bylaws, and the party wall thereof shall not be less than 100 millimeters thick in total thickness at any point in the wall. So this one gives a concession and a recognition of our current method of construction. So if you're building an apartment, you're building a flat, or you're building a townhouse where it's multi-storied, our common nature of construction is reinforced concrete wall. So yeah, as long as you still comply with the STC rating of 50, it gives you some leeway in terms of the physical thickness of the wall. But however, it says, at no part of the wall it shall not be less than 100 millimeters thick. In other words, like in our terrace house construction now, we'll be building the wall. We'll be putting, say, electrical conduits on both sides of the wall. Right? So the idea of this clause is simply just that yeah, please go ahead, build your wall now. The nominal thickness is 200 mm, but if you've got other forms of construction, you may do so, provided that after you put in your electrical conduits, after you put in the water pipes, chasing on both sides to both neighbors, no part of the wall in any of its location shall be less than 100 millimeters thick. So that is the condition. Right? And these are all constructional prescriptions for how you construct a party wall. Right? And then no combustible material shall be built into the thickness of any wall. Right? So if you're thinking of using a lightweight precast with styrofoam infill to reduce the weight, okay, you cannot do that now. Yeah, because the wall as a party wall shall not have anything combustible, any reference at all, as long as it's a combustible material, as long as it's not rated as non-combustible by BS 476, the material shall not constitute any part of the wall. And of course, should there be any other penetrations, they must be adequately fire stopped. No? That's where the fire stopping comes in. Okay, so this is party wall. And okay, 5 and 6 refers to the legal status of the party wall. So 5 and 6 should not be confused now with our fire stopping and the application of fire doors. Remember, we are still talking about a party wall. Right, so a party wall, the purpose of the party wall, as we have mentioned, is to separate you from your neighbor. It's a physical, private, privacy separation. Right? You don't want to hear your neighbor, you don't want to see your neighbor, and you don't want the neighbor to touch the wall and the wall starts to flex and you see the neighbor moving along the wall. So you don't want that. Now, so you want something very, very solid, very, very firm, and almost no opportunity for the neighbor to be able to accidentally even knock down the wall and break into you, right? But however, because this is a legal thing, so if you and your neighbor decide to marry or decide to agree to share the same house or whatever, you can actually then make an opening in the wall. Or you can actually remove the party wall, because that's exactly what it is. A party wall separating you from your neighbor. So if you marry your neighbor, you say, hey, I don't want a party wall anymore. I'm very, very good friends with my neighbor now. Or we're one family now. I don't want a party wall between the two lots. Yes, legally, you are allowed to remove. So what has this got to do with fire? You know? So Bomba cannot say, double A, you cannot remove a party wall, you cannot put a hole in a party wall. Oh, you want to open a party wall, okay, insulated fire shutter in a party wall. Nonsense, right? Because this is just a legal definition of your neighbor, right? If you have to be separated from a neighbor, you do a party wall. If you are not separated from a neighbor, you're married now, yes, bring down the party wall. But of course, the caveat is that, should you divorce your neighbor later, you have to reinstate the party wall. That's really what it means. All right? Okay, so that's party wall. Okay, let's understand that. Now, definition of party wall is just for that purpose. Good. Now we come back to part 7 and part 8, which is fire safety. Separating wall. So a separating wall means a wall or part of a wall which is common to two adjoining buildings. What are we talking about now? Wasn't that the definition of a party wall? Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Right? But here, a separating wall on a fire safety method is that the separating wall must then have a fire safety performance criteria. Right? So where you need a party wall, it shall also have to be constructed as a separating wall. Now this is where the fire safety comes in. Right, so a separating wall shall form a complete vertical wall separating any buildings. And nothing in this bylaw shall prohibit the passage through a separating wall of a pipe, etc., and it has to be fire stopped. Now, in contrast to the function of a party wall, would you allow your neighbor to drill a hole in your wall and slide the electrical conduit right through the wall? Or would you allow your neighbor to get his electrical supply, the main electrical incoming cable, to pass through your house, go through the party wall and supply your neighbor? You wouldn't want that, right? So as a party wall, that's not allowed. But however, from purely a fire safety point of view, yeah, you need a fire separation. So if you want to punch through anything in between, you have to fire stop it. As long as the integrity of the fire safety performance of the wall is intact. Right, this is where the separation of the definition comes in. Right, so still on a separating wall, any separating wall which forms a junction with the roof shall be carried above the upper surface of the roof to a distance of not less than 2 to 5 millimeters. So this is the key element that a lot of us are talking about. Yeah, I get a lot of questions. Even Bomba, even the local council were saying that when you do, say, a terrace house, does the wall end below the roof? I don't want to see the ugly wall jutting out from the roof, right? So can I have the wall below the roof? And in the olden days, yes, we do have that approved detail by Bomba under the directive that you can do a concrete T. Yeah, but that one, if you read the directive very carefully, it's actually only meant for low-cost housing on certain aspects, So that thing is totally thrown away already. No one's referring to that anymore. Now the directive is UBBL 2021, Amendment 2021, that is. Separating wall, this one is coming back in force. Right? So as a separating wall, it shall be carried above the roof. So the idea is that you cut off the entire, any of the roof elements from crossing from one party to another. Right? This is very critical. Okay, number 3, compartment wall. What is a compartment wall? So a compartment wall shall mean a wall for the purposes of Bylaw 136, divide a building into compartments for any purpose in connection with Bylaws 213 and 417. So primarily a compartment wall now, we are talking specifically about fire separation. So we started with legal party separation. Then we talk about separating wall, which means that as far as fire safety is concerned, what is the performance criteria of a party wall as a separating wall? Now we come into compartmentation. We're physically talking about fire separation between compartments. And a compartment is primarily reference as to why and when would you have a compartment wall. A party wall would be very easy, right? A party wall, once you have a adjoining neighbors, you have a party wall separating the buildings. But when it comes to compartment wall, this is purely now a fire safety requirement. So the primary kickoff for us to consider compartment walls would be in the fifth schedule. Because in the fifth schedule, it says every floor area, in the fifth schedule, it gives you the full prescription on the limits of your floor area and the limits of the building volume or the fire compartment volume with regards to your respective purpose group and the size and scale of the building that you're doing. So all that is captured in the fifth schedule. So a compartment wall is now solely for the purpose, or primarily, I would say, primarily for the purpose of ensuring that the fire compartment limits are met. Right now, you're talking about compartment wall, and etc., etc. Yeah, as to how you apply a compartment wall, well, I think all of us will be familiar now. We are having separate flats and apartments. All of these individual components are compartmented, even though it doesn't exceed the fire compartment limit, separating different parts of the building of different functions or different purpose groups, and etc., etc. All right? Now we look at external wall. So a lot of times we say external walls. No, external walls are not fire rated, right? External walls are not fire rated, right? No. But because we've got our windows, no? All walls have got windows, isn't it? Yeah. So, okay, now this is where it comes in. It says external wall. What's the definition? External wall is an external wall. External wall means the outer wall of a building not being a party wall, notwithstanding that it may immediately adjoin a wall of another building. So it may actually do that. Yeah, there's a party wall or there's a separating wall, it comes with external wall. But however, external wall just means your external envelope. So I say, yeah, external wall, how is it? But you see, under the elements of structure, when we talk about prescriptions of fire rating, we refer to everything under the elements of structure shall be fire rated. External wall is an element of structure. So you say, that's very contradictory, right? So external wall, we actually have to refer then to the sixth schedule in terms of reference to the areas of unprotected openings. Right, so I've got a big window over here. How am I going to fire rate that? Yeah, you're right. But however, if you're actually limited by the sixth schedule, in other words, your building in terms of unprotected openings to your immediate neighbor, which is several meters away, by calculation, if you need to reduce or to have a certain percentage of protected areas, that means we're limiting your unprotected areas on the wall, the areas, the surface areas that you have, that you're not allowed to have an opening, shall be fire rated. That is the key, right? So the external wall would be which component of the external wall, up to the percentage allowed from the sixth schedule calculations. Those are the components that you have to have fire rating. And that one then brings us to the additional clause on the external wall, the cladding on the external walls. We are all very, very familiar now on BS 8414, I hope. We've gone, BS 8414 is another whole topic of its own that will take another 5 hours to cover. But generally, BS 8414 is not about the fire rating of the external wall. We have to remember that. All right, BS 8414 is about the control of a flame spread on the external walls. It is not fire rating. So very, very often people get all these things confused. Right? They said, oh, the sixth schedule says that I have 0% allowance for unprotected openings on my external wall. Good. I'll just specify a BS 8414 wall on it, and I got my fire rating. Wrong. BS 8414 is purely for the compliance of external flame spread. All right, fire rating still comes back from the construction of the wall as a fire rating. All right, still on external walls, horizontal and vertical barriers of external walls. This is for the purpose of protection, physically extending the protection from floor to floor compartmentation. The horizontal and vertical barriers, the fire-rated horizontal fins or the fire-rated spandrels, or even the drop of your perimeter beam will all serve the purpose of providing the horizontal and vertical barriers. Right, 5, protecting structures. Protecting structures here, protecting structures mean the entire shaft or the entire protecting structure, including the exit stairs, the lift shafts, etc., etc. In particular, when it comes to walls, it will be walls to the protecting structure. So protected shaft means a stairway, lift, escalator, chute, duct, or any other shaft which enables persons or things or air to pass between different compartments. Those are called protecting structures. And the components of the protecting shaft shall be the protecting structures consisting of walls, floors, or any other elements that forms the enclosure of the protecting structure. And 6, finally, on partitions. So partition generally just means a non-load bearing wall of any internal wall not being a party wall, compartment wall, separating wall, or external wall. Right now, this is the first element of an indication of what a partition is in the bylaw, because that's the definition. A non-load bearing wall of any internal wall which is not functioning as a party wall, compartment wall, or separating wall. Right? And a protected corridor having an FRP of not less than half an hour, etc., etc. And a protecting lobby having partitions having a FRP of not less than half an hour. All right? Okay, good. Now, just now I was mentioning of element of structure. So these are the elements of structure that will require a fire rating. So if you look through the schedule, and you find that your building of this size and volume, this purpose group, you require a fire rating of, say, 2 hours. So which are the elements that then you will have to construct to a 2-hour fire rating? It shall be all of these elements of structure. Any member forming part of a structural frame, well, that's it. Yeah? Anything that holds up your building shall be fire rated. A floor, including a compartment floor, right? Every floor, where so required, shall be an element of structure that you require the fire rating. An external wall, we just mentioned external walls. Say external walls need not be fire rated. The external wall, where required for the protected areas, shall be fire rated in accordance to the your calculations of the 6th schedule. Then separating wall, compartment walls, structures enclosing a protecting shaft, a load-bearing wall, which is then forming part of the structure, obviously, and a gallery, a freestanding gallery within a fire compartment. Okay, then the separation of fire rates. Now, specifically coming into walls, there's this another bylaw 139, which says that apart from the separation of different purpose groups, different apartment buildings, etc., etc., down to the floor plan level, it is also necessary for us to have a fire separation if you identify specific fire risk areas. And A to H, boiler rooms, repair shops, storage areas of materials and quantities deemed hazardous, liquefied petroleum gas, transformer rooms, flammable liquid stores, a shaft for an electrical riser, except for ELV, and a cold room. A cold room is a very, very late addition in UBBL 2021. Right? So these are the very specific areas which may not actually constitute a different purpose group or a different, we may not actually consider a different purpose group in your floor plan, yeah? But you've identified these rooms. Okay, these are identified as separation of fire risk areas, and therefore you must have a fire separation. You must have the compartmentation. And the fire resistance, as I mentioned. So all the elements of structure in your building, you have to refer now to the 9th schedule to locate your fire resistance rating. Then you apply it to all the elements of structure in your building. And it shall be constructed in accordance to the notional period of fire resistance given. Okay, these are all very straightforward now. And the test of fire resistance. Okay, we are still kind of stuck with BS 476 for the obvious reason. All these were carry over from the old British standards, British ordinance. But it's okay. But we have to understand what's the limitation of 476, which I will describe to you later. Right, so generate test of fire resistance in accordance to all the various parts of BS 476. Now, so we come to the crunch. We are now designing a building. So we got the bylaws, we got all that. Now we fully understand all the different descriptions or interpretations of all the different parts of a bylaw. Right? So now let's come to this. Party wall or separating wall or compartment wall. And this is the thing that I believe all of us are having problems with Bomba, right? You go to Bomba and say, ini 230 brick wall. Then you say, excuse me. Okay, so let's look at this. Okay, so bylaw 86, party wall is a constructional requirement. So it's to be constructed to be used as a separation, a physical privacy separation from legal privacy separation from you, from your neighbor. Whereas for a fire safety installation requirements, you would require a separating wall, right? Or in some cases, it would actually have to be constructed as a compartment wall, right? Depending on the situation. So the way we work is this. As an example, on a terrace house in the landed property, it's very, very obvious. You've got your different lots. So the wall separating you from the neighbor is, first and foremost, primarily a party wall. From a fire safety point of view, it has to be a separating wall. So you construct this wall then to be a party wall, to comply with the physical characteristics or physical prescriptions of a party wall. Then you comply with the performance parameters expected of a separating wall. So you'll be referring to bylaw 86 as a party wall, and bylaw 141 and bylaw 147 as a separating wall. Yeah, but of course, as a party wall, we will not be allowing any penetrations for the crossing of pipes, flues, ducts, or combustible materials. Right? And then as a party wall, unless you're married to your neighbor, we don't even allow you to do an opening and put a fire-rated roller shutter. Okay? Okay, good. Now we understand that. Now, what are the other examples? Multi-story apartments, for example, integrated construction. You're building units, they're all up in the sky, strata titles. So you'll be constructed as a party wall because you're still separated from a neighbor. They're still a different title. You're still functioning as two separate families. I really don't want to hear you in your own private apartment. I don't want to see you, I don't want to hear you. It's still functioning as a party wall. But in this manner of construction, it is for all intents and purposes to be constructed as a compartment wall. Because now it is no longer just a separation of fire from left to right in a horizontal manner. It is separation of fire from ground floor to upper floors, left and right. Now, so the wall now forms part of the compartment, a fire compartment. So it has to be constructed in accordance to, well, first 86 as a party wall, and then bylaws 136, 138, and 148 as a compartment wall. Right? Okay, I hope that makes it very, very clear. Huh? So next time Bomba questions you, or worse, the local authority building department guy questions you, you know exactly how to answer them. Now we look into the fire applications already. Now what is the purpose of, what are the, I won't call it privileges, I'll call it what is the understanding on how we can maximize the efficiency of our building design insofar as fire safety is concerned. So like a separating wall, for example, you've got this building, A and B. Actually, animations, never mind. So you got this building A and B. If we don't have the separating wall there, A and B is actually one building. So the definition of the height of the building would be on the part of A. But if there's no separating wall over here, the height of the building would be this one. Right? So what is the reference to the height of the building insofar as fire safety is concerned? It is access for fire safety, access for fire appliances, access for firefighting and rescue. Right? And I said that one is common to all building types, irregardless of your purpose group or size of the building. As long as the building exceeds a certain height, you require risers for firefighting. Your building exceeds a certain volume, you require perimeter access for the fire appliances, etc. Right? So if this building do not have that separating wall, this is one single building, so that would then require the firefighting shafts, for example, and you have the entire volume here. You will be subject to then the how much perimeter access you require to provide. Yeah, but however, and that means that you're actually including that into the full calculation. So if this one requires a fire riser over here, by the distance over there, you may actually require a fire riser over here as well, because this is one single building. You have to apply, but you say, oh, but this building is so much shorter, I don't need a fire riser in that compartment. But yes, that's precisely what it is. So if you want to maximize the efficiency of your fire safety installation, if you provide a separating wall over here, then part A of the building will be subject to that height. Whereas part B of the building, because it's now fire separated, you'll be subject to that volume and that height and the provisions thereof. So this is not about finding loopholes. It's got absolutely nothing to do with that. It is talking about providing the correct fire safety applications to the correct building typology and the correct design. Yeah, if you don't have this wall, basically you'll be applying all of these prescriptions to that part of the building as well. I would say go ahead if your design is such that you cannot or not possibly have a separating wall as part of the design, then you must go ahead, yeah? Right? But if your building allows you to have that separating wall, then you enjoy these privileges of the separation. All right, so while we're still talking about walls, way back in 2012, Bombard did issue this directive, and as far as I know, the directive has never been retracted. This is the directive that was governing the use of dry wall construction as a party wall, compartment wall, fire separation wall. That means a dry wall construction to be used as a fire-rated wall. Yeah, this directive came out. The history to this directive was this. 10, 15 years ago, there are a lot of developers who started building very large industrial, speculative factories, speculative developments, yeah, for resale. Speculative, they don't have the client there, but they will build these factories, they build these lots. Oh, I suppose it's about 12:30, is it? Sorry? Yep. Huh? 11:43. Oh my goodness. Okay, I'll try and wrap it up fast, okay? So this directive was issued. The history of it is this. Many developers are building very large-scale buildings, speculative buildings they don't want to sell off to people. So the intention is that these large buildings, they build very, very huge volume factories or warehouses, whatever. And they want it to be maximum flexibility for the tenants. The tenants will come and say, oh, I might want to take up the whole building en bloc, or they'll find many small tenants and say, oh, why don't you share the building? I just build partitions to divide you guys. So once you have different tenants, you have different compartments, compartmentation starts to come in, you see. Of course, you've got a very large building. If you've got no compartmentation, you'll be subject to additional fire sprinkler. You may reach those limits that you need to install active systems and all that. So developers are very cheapskate. They just say, I want to build a simple building, no fire safety installation. I just want to do it safe. So what's the fastest way for you not to have, say, active systems? I start compartmenting the building. I say, wow, if I build all these party walls and all that, then I cannot sell to the guy who wants to do en bloc. You have to tear down all the walls. Someone came up with a smart idea. Why don't you just use drywall construction to construct these party walls or to construct these compartment walls? Then very easy to tear down. The moment a new tenant comes in or the new buyer comes in, he wants an en bloc, good. Overnight we can bring down all these party walls. drywall construction. So that's where it is. Bombard caught on to that, and they came up with this directive to restrict the use of party walls. So generally speaking, this is verbatim from the directive. There are many, many descriptions as to where you are allowed to use a party wall, a drywall construction or partition system, or where you're not allowed. Okay, to go straight to the thing, I came up with this chart, so it's very, very easy to refer. Generally, party walls, you are not allowed to use drywall construction of any sort. It has to be masonry. In respect of the clause 86, you have to be masonry, right? Or if you have another form of construction, eventually it has to be really, really solid and of a masonry, the nature of a masonry wall. Protecting structures, that means these are the hard areas of the building. You don't change your protecting structures as your building goes along, right? An exit stair will remain an exit stair. A fire shaft will remain as a fire shaft, right? Then bylaw separations, 139 separations, all the high-risk groups, yeah, you cannot use drywall construction. Then everything else. For separating walls within your own buildings, compartment walls, you may use dry walls, but it has to be of a solid and infill construction, right? It cannot be hollow, or it has to be fully filled in with the proper insulation, of course tested to Malaysian to BS standards 476. Yeah, then on external walls for the protected areas, yes, you can start using dry walls. Yeah, and for unprotected areas, not applicable. And for partitions, yes, go ahead. You can start using drywall construction. Okay, so this is a very, very quick summary. The details, yeah, you can pick it up quite easily. Yeah, a lot of the manufacturers are also very, very in tune with this already. So you get on to them and they'll give you the good advice. So very quickly, I'll just run through this thing on the fire stop. This is an example of a project that we did back in 2018 to 2019. We actually hit COVID halfway through construction. So the completion was in 2020, well within the COVID period, yeah. But the design took us about 6 months or so, around about 2018. So this is the application of fire stops. Now at that time, okay, this is an industrial factory building, kind of high-tech industry. Lots and lots of process utilities, very, very mechanical. It's actually more of an engineering project than an architectural project. But as architects, hey, we do everything one now. So we go in there. And particularly when it comes to fire stops, it was such a critical issue. Early days, I think 2019, right? So we figured, oh my goodness, there's just so many things that we do not know about fire stops. So I'll just go through this very quickly. First, the UBBL. How does the UBBL prescribe fire stops? So fire stop means the barrier. See, okay, so we know all this. Where's a fire stop required? We know all of this already, where you need fire stops. Now, look at particularly in terms of the prescriptions of the UBBL. First, the fire stop, we all know, it has to be a fire stop, and it shall not be less than the required FRP. So whatever fire stop you put in there cannot be less than the prescribed FRP, right? Okay, good. Now, what is a fire stop as far as the UBBL is concerned? First, it's to be a non-combustible material. One. Secondly, not to restrict essential thermal movement. So two criteria here. One is the physical fire stopping. The material itself shall be non-combustible. Secondly, it shall not restrict thermal movement. Okay, so I think I've gone through this quite a few times with you, so we all understand how we apply fire stops, etc., etc. So what are the required properties? What are the properties required of a fire stop, the physical properties? Since the UBBL stopped at just the two elements, so you say first, it has to be non-combustible. Secondly, it shall not restrict thermal movement. That's it. So we're kind of stuck, right? So now let's refer to Malaysian standards. And Malaysian standards adds in a little bit more. It says, whatever it is, it shall take into account size and nature of the gap and anticipated differential movement. And in any case, fire stop to be tested in accordance with BS 476, Part 22. Okay, we all know the limitation of BS476. You can't use 476 Part 22 to test a fire stop. Okay, it doesn't work in that manner. But never mind. So what is deemed to comply? This is coming back to the UBBL, where it deemed to comply, non-combustible deemed to comply in the UBBL, it actually says cement mortar, gypsum-based plaster, cement or gypsum-based vermiculite or perlite mixes. So for the longest of time, well, first, we may not even be aware of a fire stop in the first place. So for the longest of time, basically your cement sand plastering on your wall is used as a default material to fill up gaps. Yeah, I think, take it as a fact, that's actually what's been happening for the longest of time. So now coming back to what we are today. So let's look at it. Products and material for fire stopping. It should be reinforced. This is still Malaysian standards. It should be reinforced in the following circumstances, where the gap elements exceeding 100 mm. So if the gap, especially if it's a horizontal gap with a vertical penetration, you want to stuff the hole with just cement sand plaster, all right? So Malaysian standard says it should be reinforced. It should be reinforced. Oops, let me go back. Oops, I can't go back now. Okay, so it should be reinforced, and where you require thermal movement and all that, non-rigid or flexible materials are to be used. Right, so again, these are prescriptions, right? So now we look at that. So what are the specific properties required of a fire stop? So deemed to comply is actually cement mortar, gypsum-based plaster, cement or gypsum-based vermiculite. So are they non-combustible? Well, yeah. But what is non-combustibility? So in UBBL, we are referring to BS476. So BS476 non-combustibility, there are primarily two tests here. There's 476 Part 4 and 476 Part, and 476 Part 476 Part 4 primarily. Yeah, and this is just a very, very simple test where you just have one small sample material and just ignite it for like 15 minutes to take the reading on the combustibility and flip or spread. Yeah, so, okay lah, as the material, you'll say these three deemed to comply materials is non-combustible. Right, is it the same fire resistance period as the wall or the floor? How do we determine that? Well, BS476 says refers to 476 Part 22. But 476 Part 22 is actually testing, okay, Part 4, non-combustibility. Oops, sorry, I'm going backwards. Okay, Part 22 is the method of determination of fire resistance of non-load-bearing elements of construction. And it's actually tested in a large furnace with a wall. So how do you test that material? Just the material functioning as a fire stop, we don't. Like the test that Mun has been sharing with us, yeah, you have to do the entire assembly, put it into the furnace, then you'll be able to test on the actual, it's the whole assembly, it's the testing of the whole assembly, not just on the material itself. Yeah, so Part 4, BS476 Part 22 is of, say you're testing a brick wall. So there's no possibility for us to be able to test that fire stopping material using this part. So, summarize, these three deemed to comply materials, okay, it's non-combustible, but is it the same fire resistance period as the FRP as a floor and wall? I can't determine that. You're the architect, we are specifying it now. Can I sign on the Borang C3? I can't, because I cannot determine that cement sand plaster is of the same fire resistance. Allow for thermal or physical movement, I can't determine that either. Structural support for large gaps, I can't determine that either. Yeah, so what do? We have to then go for the systems. And this is where industry partners like Hilti and I won't name your competitors lah. All right. But this is what we should be demanding or requesting from our suppliers now. right? So I'm an architect, and I said, I do not know how to comply with all of this. So please, let's work with the industry partners, right, and learn. Right? As architects, we are signing on the forms, so let us be fully diversity. So I'll just give you an example now. Okay, I'm talking about the project, how we went through the process. I took that project as a learning curve. That's a sharp learning curve. I engaged myself with an industry partner. I will not name who they are, but it becomes quite obvious as I go down. And we work together to identify my role as a PSP, what are my expectations, and what is the industry, what are the solutions the industry giving me. And collectively, we went through this process, and I'll show you the process. And also, this process, we were the time frame of design is very, very short, and time frame of construction is also very, very short. Yeah, so we made full use of BIM documentation to facilitate our process. And I'm quite glad to say the particular industry partner over here supported us via BIM for us to implement this project. So, okay, so step one is design. So first we design using BIM documentation. We start to do placeholdings first. Placeholdings identifying where all the process utilities are, where all the shafts are supposed to go from an architectural point before we pass it to the engineers. So when the engineers get onto this job, immediately they know what are the corridors, what are the spaces they have to work with. Every process utility represented one color will go to one engineer, and the one engineer will work his design within the placeholding that we provided for them so that they don't clash. Yeah, we as the architects will have to determine first the various locations for them. Then this will then be populated. When the engineers come back, they will be replaced with the engineering design, the engineering framework and the engineering line diagrams to be inserted in the placeholdings. Then from there, and these are then developed into detailed components with the precise positions, knowing how many pipes are there, the hierarchy of when all these things come together, which utility gives way to which other utility, which one takes priority, which one should go above, which one should go below. So all of these things are worked in that manner. We're talking about fire stops actually. So step two, after we've determined the design, after we've done the initial placeholding, after the engineers have populated the placeholdings and we got the details ready, we then have to specify first what are the various fire stop materials or assemblies that we will require in our project. So specifications, this is where we go to our suppliers, industry partners, and we start identifying. I got all these situations. We got the BIM model already. We have identified all the different situations. We start to collate them together, put them into the respective groupings of requirement specification, thermal movement, size, nature of penetrations, etc., etc. So we do the initial specifications. Then, of course, already we have to check at the point, can this thing got bombard certification or not? Is it approved for that particular purpose? Is it approved for the application that we want? Very, very important. Yeah, because when you sign a Barang C3, you're actually signing on one element, but is that element the same element that was being used in that particular location? It's so important, yeah? So we have to go through all of these things. Then step three is actually the hard work. That's the real documentation. And this is where we go around the entire model that we've created. We have to start identifying, okay, that one, give it a code number. Okay, what is it that we are specifying, right? We literally have to do that. This is the hard work part. We spend a lot of sleepless nights here. And after we do all of this, the good thing is that with BIM, after we've done all of that, if we documented it correctly, we can then generate the bill of materials. And the bill of materials will then give us the location, the unique identification of that particular composite of fire stopping, the product name, and the type, what material is it, the fire rating required, the dimensions and size, the type of penetration, and for the benefit of the QS in preparing the actual quantities, it comes out with the actual materials, the quantities of the materials, yeah? So the hard work gives us this, and this one then speed up a lot in terms of our physical documentation. It really, really helped us a lot. Then step four will be the construction. So this is where you physically build what you've documented in BIM. With the BIM model, it's very easy. So we can use the BIM model, we can actually walk to the actual site itself, and we know exactly what the item is supposed to be, what it should be looking like. If it doesn't look like anything like how we documented in BIM, guys, I think we got some problem here. So this is where we start to see all the different applications coming in together. The collars, the mixed blocks, the composites, the structural framing, composites, etc., etc. Then after we build all of that, then we have to start doing the inspections to ensure that we got the right thing in the right place. And the inspections is once we clarify, we're happy with the inspection, we get a tag. I was promised 8 years ago, 9 years ago now, that we are supposed to have a QR code. I'm still waiting for that. Can Never mind. It's okay. Right, so LOD 500 already, but okay, the tag is still manual. It's okay. No, the clients are not complaining. So we did manual coding, but of course we already got the original BIM schedule that we're using for reference. So after we tagged it and all that, great. So then the hard part, we had to call Bomba in for inspections. And thankfully, at that time, Bomba is still not too well versed with all these kind of things, so it's more like a learning process. We actually had to point out to them, this is what we did, and okay, Bomba is appreciative. Now I heard that Bomba is, you're going to train Bomba very specifically. Don't train them too hard. But we went through this. It was actually a very sharp learning curve for Bomba also. We said, ada barang ini. They're actually very surprised that we took the effort to document it in this manner. And C3 submissions was a stack about that thick, because every location we got one form. So then, of course, finally the C1, C2, C3. So after you get through all of this, and step 7, we celebrate, for a job well done, so that our team can go home and sleep peacefully at night, knowing that we have specified it correctly, we have built it correctly, and we have certified it correctly. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Very insightful, very comprehensive. Let's give him another round of applause. And now, of course, we're beginning the Q&A, so I would like to call upon our guests to come on stage and take your seats, please. We're going to be doing a Q&A for the next 10-15 minutes. And what's going to happen is, after that, we'll do the lucky draw. And I think it's the standard procedure, like if you have a question, raise your hand. Someone will come to you with a mic. Introduce yourself and where you're from, and who the question is for, okay? Don't look at me when you ask the questions, please look at them, okay? Because I have had people looking at me, and honestly, I don't know why. All right, so let's get the lights on or something. Is that okay? This is also open to the guys who are sitting on top of mezzanine. Just raise your hands and shout if you need to. So who would like to get the ball rolling? To ask questions. Anything that's burning in your heart right now. You want to ask them a question. Anything that's blazing that you are in your soul that you want to ask them something. So we have this gentleman in front here. Could someone pass him the mic?
My name is Amigo from Danpal, polycarbonate facade system. We just came into Malaysia for marketing our products. I just wanted to know whether polycarbonate multi-wall systems, do that require BOMBA certifications? Because as you said, standard normal curtain walls does not have the BOMBA certification. So how do you think it will apply?
When it comes to BOMBA certifications, we're talking about primarily items that require a fire safety rating. If you're bringing those elements, if they're interior decorations and all that, if they're not used in areas that are controlled by prescriptions of flame spread or fire rating, then you're kind of free to use it for that application. But if your intention is to use it for certain elements, that are on an external wall. So if it's on an external wall, if it's not, well, fire rating, of course, there are two primary fire rating, as you all know. One is the integrity, the stability, integrity, and the insulation of the material, preventing a fire spread from one end to the other. The other rating is actually the flame spread rating. Right, so for the external wall, as I was mentioning, for the unprotected parts of the external wall where allowed, you don't need fire rating. But however, external wall cladding or external wall surfaces and materials are subjected to our Class O rating and also to BS 8414 certification. Right, so if you do have a composite that you intend to be marketed as an external wall cladding or forming part of the component of external wall, yes, then you'll be subjected to the BS 8414 certification. Yeah. Yes. Well, Class O is just a certification of the material, which is the flame spread. Class O in the Malaysian context is essentially Class 1 in accordance with BS 476, parts 6 and 7, I think. All right, but and then if it's also non-combustible, then you get a Class 0 rating, right? So that's only for the material. But however, when you have a composite installation, you have to go to BS 8414. So BS 8414 is the test on the flame spread rating of the entire assembly. So it's no longer about one single component. Yeah, it has to be of the assembly. Right.
Okay, thank you very much. Can we have the next question? Oh, someone from Hilti. Okay, great. You're questioning your own people.
No, it's more on the, just now related to the MS 1183. Just now, Mr. Lee, Architect Lee Siong just now present on that part, which is related to the opening that's at the one cross that you just now you show, saying that on the 25 mm you're still allowed to use cement grout, but inside the MS 1183 is mentioned it can, but it come to the UBBL just now on the presentation it's not comply to the UBBL requirement. This is something that I understand, but is that something that is a Bomba or Standard Malaysia is working on new revision just to correct back on the MS 1183, or how actually it should look for this one?
Well, they're kind of independent because Malaysian standard is a standard, whereas your UBBL, as I mentioned earlier, it is actually a law, and the law is really a legal document that we really have to remember and regard it as a legal document. It says it's a law. But in any case, the 25 mm you're talking about, it's not about the gap, it's actually about the penetration, the material that's penetrating through. So the UBBL is a legacy from our old British ordinance before even Malaysia got its independence. That is in reference to the limit of the size of a combustible pipe. If you have a PVC pipe, a plastic pipe, you are allowed up to 25 mm of penetration. This has got nothing to do with a fire stop. Fire stop is another application. It's saying that, you use fire stop to seal up the gaps, but the 25 mm is a limitation. A combustible pipe like PVC or whatever, you're limited to 25 mm of the pipe. So if the pipe burns off, maximum you got a 25 mm hole in the wall, and apparently in those days it is accepted. Yeah. Well, we have to now refer over to the inference is that we have to have the wall fully fire rated with all these penetrations, and each of these components must give you the fire rating. So it is inferred now that we have to do whatever is necessary to do that protection. If us as architects, we signed a PSP, we said, we have complied with the full laws. In the express conditions, yes, but in terms of its implied performance, have we complied? Yeah, that's the question that I pose to everyone today. Let us understand that just the mere compliance with the law does not necessarily mean that you've actually done your job.
Wow, even if you comply. Even if you comply, you don't comply.
Well, because it comes out to performance criteria.
Right, okay.
It's a bit like you're driving on the highway. You comply with the speed limit. You drive at 109 kilometers an hour in the 110 kilometer zone. Are you within the law? Yes, you are. But if it's a torrential thunderstorm at that time when you're driving, your tires are aquaplaning, you're sliding all over the road, and you hit somebody else, you are actually within the law, but you're not driving very well at all. Yeah. I think it comes back to that. That's the we are professionals. We may have complied with the law, but it is our duty to ensure that we're actually doing the right thing.
Okay. Even you comply, you don't comply. Okay, we have a following question. Let's just introduce to the audience what travels faster, fire or smoke? Some of you said fire. Okay, there's got one gentleman here and another one here. Because he raised his hand first, so I'll pass it to him, and then you can follow after that.
Hello, I'm Peter from Architect KDI. So back to this issue, smoke spreads faster than fire and kills people faster. So my question is, the Malaysian law prescribes fire compartments, and generally fire doors are used as smoke doors. Though they may not be automatically the same thing, but smoke would have spread to the next fire compartment before it activates the fire seal on the fire door or on service penetrations. It said the standard test is 8 to 10 mm door threshold. That actually is a leakage for the smoke. So the question is, should we have a smoke compartment come with smoke doors as a smaller compartment within the fire compartment to stop this spread? Or is it deemed the threshold is small and the spread is slow, or that the sprinkler water has diminished the risk?
It's a very smoky question. I think you need to clear up the air and, I'm going to be trying putting as many puns as possible. You need to clear up the air with that particular question and make it less smoky so that we get a clearer line of sight as to where the exit is.
It's okay. I think I got the gist of some of it. You're talking about smoke in general. Yeah. There are many layers in terms of design for safety. Right? We're talking about fire, but actually smoke control is very, very integral to our design philosophy. When you talk about compartmentation, we're actually talking about smoke control also. Because we say that the purpose of compartmentation is to keep the fire in that place at all times. Fire stops, MS 1703, the standards of a fire door, it also includes smoke control to a certain degree. Nothing can be 100%, right? We allow a certain leakage, yeah, but it's all controlled within the defined criteria, within the defined parameters. Yeah? Further on smoke control, you're mentioning about long corridors. Yes, in MS 1783, and also we highlighted very, very clearly now, or we deliberated a lot more clearly now. Even in the red book you buy the red book, you go to one particular section, we also mention the recommendation to install smoke doors. Right? Just on that point, Malaysia, we do not actually got a standard for smoke doors per se. So the nearest to a smoke door is you buy a fire door lah, because a fire door serves that purpose. All right? Now, then when you come to overall smoke control, we do, of course, have our specifications and prescriptions for the installation of smoke control, mechanical smoke control, the engineered smoke control, either by mechanical means or natural ventilation means, natural convection and all that, but they're engineered smoke controls, MS 1780. Yeah, so all of these things have to be seen holistically, right? No one single element can stand out on its own. Application of one single element will not make you comply, but it has to be seen holistically in the entire situation. Yeah, but it's very good that you got this awareness of this, and you'll be very, very glad to have another seminar, perhaps, to specifically talk about smoke control.
There was another gentleman on this side. who also raised his hand. Yeah, that's the one. Yeah.
Hello, T from SA Architects. Just want to, first. Just now the fire door actually is not 8 to 10 mm. On the top and the side, I think it's about 3 mm. Only the bottom is 8 to 10 mm. So that itself might have already controlled some of the smokes on the number. Okay, my question is, this is a compartmentation talks, seminars. We are supposed to comply with the floor-to-floor compartmentation. I'm not sure it's 80 meters or 30 meters. So is there exception to the floor compartmentation requirement? Exception, the answer. Example, toilet. How do we do it? You got a WC. Just now I saw the example of WC. I thought that is some of the reason you're going to talk about it. So in the WC, you don't have a smoke control, right? Fire seal, WC, floor traps.
Okay, yeah.
So is there exception? My question is exceptions. Then of course it go back to the corridor, apartment corridor, where we have these scuppering floor traps, balconies. I think balcony may have it because it's an open corridor, open or something. That's number one. Number two is, since you say it's a red book, I just noticed that the fire lift, our understanding is supposed to have their own compartment. Red book don't have. They combine the fire lift shaft together with the other two lift shaft.
Okay, I'll answer the first one first.
I think it's the exception. I'm interested in the exception.
So the first one, you're talking about the floor-to-floor compartmentation, whether there are any exceptions for particular areas. Yeah? Oh, sorry. The first question is floor-to-floor compartmentation, and when is the application for floor-to-floor compartmentation, and whether there are exceptions. All right, first one, floor-to-floor compartmentation. Yeah, if your building is more than I think 30 meters, then that all floors.
Yeah, I think 30.
I think practically all floors are to be compartmented. Yeah. Now, what is the exception? The exception is that you design it as an atrium. So if you do decide to actually connect the floors physically, you design it as an atrium. Then you go to go to BS, or what was it, 2 something, whatever the clause is, which gives you the full prescription in the atrium. So in other words, all floors must be compartmented. Once your building reaches a certain height, if you want to have openings between the floors, yeah, you design it as an atrium. Yeah, so that's the whole set of prescriptions over there. Then, when it comes to pipe penetrations and all that, there are no exceptions. Now, if your toilet is within an open area, the PVC pipes are coming right down, yeah, you have to do the fire stopping, except if you demarcate the toilet areas as a protected shaft. See? So as a protected shaft, it means that's what a protected shaft is supposed to be. A protected shaft is something that carries people, utilities, fluids, crossing compartments. Yeah, so you design it as a protected shaft.
So the
toilets,
there'll
be no exceptions.
So the toilets in the condominium should have fire seal.
Yes.
With all the floor traps. With all floor traps.
Yeah, I would say it is. If you're crossing down,
definitely cross down.
That's definitely the way we're currently
down.
constructing it, isn't it?
So
I would say, by default, the slightly higher end condominiums, the developer or the designer or the architect do not allow exposed pipes visible in the apartments. I would think like at the higher end, once you don't want to see your neighbor's pipe coming down, so you box it up behind a brick shaft or something.
No, that one we do. But what you meant is, let's say we have floor traps. Whenever a floor trap go into the shaft, whenever WC has to come down
in
normally.
accordance to the UBBL, yeah, you have to fire stop it.
So where do we stand now as architects?
Fire stop it lah.
Okay, before this debate becomes more heated and starts, breaking
then,
out into open fire.
Second one is the corridor. Let's say what you meant is correct. does the corridor we need to be
Well,
floor-to-floor
yeah.
compartmentation?
See, as a corridor, if it's an open balcony, if an open corridor, that corridor itself can be regarded as a fire barrier, right? Because your actual compartmentation is on the units,
Yes.
right? But however, if that corridor is integral as part of your internal circulation, as part of volume of the building, then yes, the same thing applies. Once you have a PVC downpipe penetrating through that floor, which is supposed to be a compartment floor, yeah, that would have to be fire.
So it means
fire.
the floor trap to the scupper drain
Yeah.
need to be lah.
Yeah, this is
Okay.
purely in accordance to the
The words by
expressed-
words word by
yeah,
words
the expressed
Understand.
specifications and the implied
So it means
performance.
if that corridor was compliant with the open corridor, the 25% wall opening and the 50%
Yeah.
whatsoever, so then in this manner, then don't need.
Now, I would not say don't need, because you really have to look at your situation. And I would say the ultimate person who has to take that responsibility and to make that judgment will have to be the architect.
But
Right,
you
you're the one
can't even
designing it.
answer.
Huh?
Most of us won't be able to answer. If you can't answer it,
Precisely.
Okay, this isn't a
So
debate.
all I'm saying is this.
Okay.
If you're looking,
I'm trying to find an
if you're
answer,
looking
so at least we
at the
have a
bylaw,
direction to move.
see, the expression of bylaw is very strict. Yeah, should you drive at 110 kilometers an hour, or should you are you allowed to exceed the speed limit? The law is very
That one-
strict.
that one
You
different.
exceed the speed limit.
No, that one different. In the speed
It's not
limit, they have to. That is
Okay.
something else. They
Gentlemen,
ask you to
gentlemen.
drive carefully.
Gentlemen,
bylaw don't have.
Getting too heated already. Before the smoke detectors all go off in the hall, I think it's best that this. I mean, don't get me wrong. I don't mean to cut you off and be
Okay.
rude. I don't mind.
Do you mind I ask another one, which is actually
Yeah,
host
sure.
real to host real?
In the
Point.
interest of
Can you get it?
time, okay, whatever he says, you have to accept.
Yeah.
Then that's the condition.
You didn't put it up in the first place.
I'm telling you now. Lulus dengan pindaan plan. This is at the moment, okay? We are going to allow it, but only if he says okay.
Yeah. Okay. The other one is don't mind just host real to host real point to point. I think most of us are interested. It's we have the new bylaw showing that 48 point to point in the open car park, open areas, right? If it is in the office or shopping mall, what's the point to point for host real location?
You have to, our guidebook is actually very, very clear. When you have a permanent open plan situation, like in a car park would be considered a permanent open plan situation. So we give you 48, well, first is the radial coverage. We give you the 30-meter radial coverage, and we have indicated that the furthest way in which you can have maximum host real allocation in a permanent open plan situation like
48.
that in the car park,
48.
it comes out to 48. So we use that as basically the limit, which is okay, in an permanent open situation. When you're designing an office as an open plan, the intention is
I mean corridor. Let's say an office with a corridor with small units or apartments, right? Is there a point-to-point dimension distance between host real to host real?
Where you have
30 or 48?
No, where you have partitions, where you have a plan that you are anticipating there will be partitions and all that, you actually have to look at the actual reach of the host real.
I mean that example, condominium. With condominium, we got a corridor,
The
right?
point to
We got a
point
corridor.
only applies to a permanent open plan situation.
Thank you.
Every other installation of host real
You didn't
must-
answer me, leh.
He did what?
No,
He already said just now.
I really said.
No, my point is like condominium. When you have a host rail, right? Is there a distance limit? That's all.
Yes.
It's either 30, 48, or 60.
There are only two limits over
Coverage,
here.
I understand.
There are only
Coverage,
two
I understand.
limits.
Point to point.
Yeah, exactly. You answer your own question.
Thank you very much. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, in the interest of time,